My name is Lennie Scott Weber. I'm the Director of Education Solutions for Steelcase Education, and we're happy to be here as a guest of this symposium that you all are doing today. We're using equipment and that from Van Andel and we've been challenged a little bit by where things are being presented today. But on your tabletops, hopefully, you'll see a new type of table decoration. There's a few green and yellow items on your tabletops. We'll be using that because I do an interactive session for everybody. I try to practice what I preach in terms of teaching. I'm a longtime educator as well as director of a couple of different design schools, both in Canada and the US. And currently at Steelcase, I'm in charge of our education research as well as design for our products and applications. So I'm here to share a little bit about not only how we have to think about, as designers, the physicality of space and it relates to accessibility, but also to maybe introduce you to a concept of universal design. So just before we begin, I'd like you to kind of turn around and say hello to the people that are next to you, just in case you don't know them, because I think it's always really important to introduce yourselves for a moment. One of the things that we don't always get an opportunity to do is sort of meet new people. You know, we just kind of hang out with the same folks that we're familiar with. There's a number up on the screen. It's 6,419,405. What do you think that refers to? Any ideas? Now we're here. We're talking about what today? Disabilities. Number of children from the ages of 3 to 21 that have had to use disability services in the last 10 years. This is a phenomenon, folks, that is not going away. And every day, people are struggling primarily with the built environment, and that's the piece that I'm going to share with you today. The environment is the barrier. If you've seen some Special Olympics, you can tell that those people, they can do anything they want to do. It's just amazing to watch their tenacity and their endurance and what they're able to do with what we would consider so many limitations, and they just don't think about them that way. How many of you are familiar with the Olympian that was able to race this year? And what did his mother tell him? It sounded really harsh when you kind of heard it. What did his mother tell him when he was about 2 or 3? Does anybody remember that? She said, pardon? No, she actually said, so help me if you can't hear someone say what they're responding to, remind me, just hold your hand up and I'll try to. So he said, you're not going to be able to do things, because if you recall, he had to have his legs removed below the knee, right? She said, that's an issue you're going to have to live with, figure it out. And I think that's really harsh, but then it sort of said, well, you're just going to be, that's your new normal. And he did. So what's the lesson learned with that one? You know, how many times do we actually implant more of a disability onto someone than maybe there actually is, right? So it's something to just kind of think about. As our keynote speaker said today, there's a lot of different kinds of disabilities that we understand. 2 main areas that in my simple mind, I put together. One is the physicality of space and one is cognitively. And again, I'm going to talk primarily about the physicality of space. But I grew up dyslexic. Nobody knew what dyslexia was when I was growing up. Real challenge for me, because I don't see the world the way many people see the world, or the way I was told to see the world. I have 2 children that have dyslexia. I have a grandson who has ADHD, I have a grandson who has autism, and I have a grandson who has Tourette's. That's my family. It's like, holy cow, how did that happen? And these are invisible things. Tourette's not so much, autism not so much, but dyslexia. I always tell my students, I turn the middle words around. It's not that I'm stupid. It's not that I can't spell. I can't do it. It just won't go there. So how do you help people to say, you're challenged, but it doesn't mean, like you said, that you're intellectually stupid. It means that you have to do things a little differently to get to where you want to be, or to get to the answer that you all are expecting as educators, right? My early research indicated that we have to see, we have to hear, we have to be comfortable, and we have to be connected, or learning shuts down. So if we have too much noise going on, even for folks that are not challenged with hearing, what happens? There's a lot of distraction. What happens when, we'll go into a couple of different scenarios, when you can't see things? If my font is too small, how many of you can read that bottom line? We have to think about what's the projection. Where's that screen going to be to the audience that when I came in this room and somebody said I was going to be presenting here, I said, are you serious? And that's my screen? Already a red flag, right? Why? Because the viewing distance and over people's heads, and this isn't high enough, and so all of those things matter, right? You have to think about that. This is the first time in history where 5 generations are at work at the same time. Traditionalists, boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Ys, and whoever else the other gens, the millenniums. Forget how many gens we're going through soon. So think about that. Got someone who is a traditionalist. They've gone to school in a very different way, perhaps, than I did, or someone who's younger, and they're already aging and having issues with what that process of life brings on, right? So now we have to think about how do we accommodate that, not just in the classroom, but also in the workplace. So the workplace in your staff areas, in the areas where there might not be a faculty teaching, but it's still on the campus, it's still in the institutional arena, right? So it means we have to think about multiple needs at the same time and at different times. How many of you support, are you all teachers in here? Is everyone an educator? Not everyone. And you are, ma'am? Administration. Okay, so some staff areas. How many times do we have to look at emails in a day? Too many. I know that one. Too many. When you have a vision impairment or you have a hearing impairment, when you're looking at a screen for a long time during the day, what happens to your eyes? What happens to your posture? What happens to having a presentation after lunch? So that's why I make you move, I keep you going. What I want you to understand is these issues are not just this symbol, which is all about can we move through space? The wheelchair has become sort of the iconic symbol of disability. But as we heard earlier today, that's not the only thing, right? How many of you have seen a parent pushing a baby carriage and trying to get through a bunch of doors? Is that any different than someone who's sitting in a wheelchair trying to get through those same doors? No, it's not. How many of you have had to have your dominant arm in a sling for any time? And then you're having to work with this other thing, that you never sort of think about unless you really have to. If you see someone like that, is it okay for somebody else to take notes for them? Is it okay for somebody else to help them prepare for things? No, it's a life issue, folks. It's not just about that person in the wheelchair or that person that we can see the disabilities. right? So we're going to talk a little bit today about 3 components: vision impairment, mobility, and dexterity. So we've got a black screen up on my screen right now. And what I'd like you to do is we're going to do some pairing up. So if you're at a table that doesn't have this wonderful decoration in the middle, I'd like you to connect with another table that does, because we're going to pair together as a dyadic team. So just choose your team members. And one person is going to put the green, so we're going to work with the green strips of cloth, is going to be blindfolded. And so the other person is going to help them lead them around. So choose your methodology. And because we're going to switch out in a minute also. So one person become the blind person. We need another person at this table if we can. Is there another? Okay. We can share. We can do things. You want it? We need an extra helper. There we go. Oh.
It feels good to be needed.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So blindfold your partner. Okay? And then what I would like you to do, okay, I need a listening time. I would like you to be able to take that person and walk them around the table. Okay? Walk them around the table.
Touch them or just...
Yeah, any way you figure it out. We're going to switch. Okay? Try not to run into anybody else.
Rolling down the boulevard.
As soon as you get around, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and sit down. Don't miss the chair.
I had to be nice because we're switching, right?
Right, you have to be nice. You have to make nice. No, they can sit down first. Okay. What I'd like you to do is remove the blindfold. And now I want you to just share for a moment from the person who was blindfolded. What was that experience like?
Really disorienting.
Disorienting? Okay. Yes, ma'am?
I volunteered because my mom has a twin brother who's blind, and I'm always talking to him, so I just kind of wanted to experience. And so I found myself moving my hands like he does. He always does this.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you have that empathy to understand. Anyone else? What was that like? Yes, ma'am?
I felt confident that my leader would know to tell me to get everything out of the way. I mean,
Okay, so there was a trust that was building up. Okay.
I'm on a chair, I'm going to move it.
Okay. Okay. But the signaling was verbal or pulling or both? Both? Okay. So there was some kinesthetic signaling. Instructions. Okay, great.
I was blindfolded, but as soon as it went dark, like I all of a sudden realized that other sensories were going to have to take over. So you start putting your hands out, and you know what
There's
I
a
mean?
protection mode that is in it.
It's like kind of turn up your auditory.
Okay, turn up your auditory. Okay, great.
Those like turn on.
Okay, it's like, okay, so you know what's kind of interesting sometimes is we get so reliant on one sense. And research will show that a blind person's sense of touch is highly enhanced as well as the ear. So it's interesting from time to time to put yourself in someone else's shoes and sort of experience that. What about the person that was taking the blind folded person around? What was that experience like? You wanted to keep her safe. Okay, really important. So you had a big responsibility, didn't you? Okay. Cautious, okay, being very careful with them. Anyone else want to share what their feelings were about? Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to feel safe, not just be safe.
Okay, what does that mean?
So that he wouldn't be worried. Like we were here, I said, it's okay. There's nothing there. It's just flat carpet.
Okay, so you're sort of telling him what the panorama is like, right? Okay.
I was maybe halfway around before I realized maybe I should ask her if I'm going too fast. We're going.
You're just dragging her along. Says, come on, here we go. Okay. All right, yes, ma'am.
Much more recognizing the options than you normally
Okay.
have to do with the responsibility, but kind of saw the barriers in the way.
All of a sudden, you're looking and much more attuned at what's in the way, right? What's in the way. Okay, we're going to switch out. Now, those that were blindfolded, I'd like you to be the leader and switch this out, okay? Everybody gets equal opportunity here. This time, we're not going to go around the tables. You choose the path. Okay, so a little different scenario. I don't want you to go to Timbuktu. This is just a little scenario. So we're going to go a little ways and then come back, just to experience it. Don't go outside, please. Don't go outside. Don't. Oh. No. You can't. Sir, you can't get back in, so you're going to have to go. So don't go back out there. Thank you.
And then you're going to stop.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Step over the cord.
Don't go out there.
No, I'm not going
Okay.
outside.
Okay.
We're a trio.
Oh, okay. Okay, as soon as you get seated, you can take your blindfold off, and the same questions apply. This time for the blindfolded person, what was this experience?
I had trouble. I knew I was on a flat surface, but I didn't trust that I was on a flat surface. It was a weird feeling. Yeah. I mean, I knew
Kept
it
doing
was,
this?
but-
Yeah. Okay, depth perception.
Taking the baby steps because I
Okay.
what I was going to walk into next.
So all of a sudden, there's this huge self-protection that comes up, right? So now we're just doing this because we know if it goes slow, we can't trip too far, right? Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir. Totally disoriented. No idea where you were.
I didn't know which one was I going right, was I going north, south, west, I had no idea where I was going.
Okay, no idea. How about the people that were how about the first time you did this with the folks that were blindfolded before? Yes, sir.
Well, one of the things is I felt empathy for the person. So if
Okay.
we were walking, I wanted to make sure to tell them where the wall was, that there's some chairs,
Okay,
how much free space do we have, 10 feet, we're clear,
okay,
to make them feel more comfortable.
okay, good. So you were trying to provide the empathy and sort of be the visual director of what you're seeing and they're not, right?
Auditory.
Through the auditory means. One of the people in the last session said, from these two distinct ways of getting around, was in the first one, I knew I was going around a table. And when I came in, I had a visual context of what this setting was. So I kind of sort of could still visualize. But when I disoriented you all, and your driver had the choice of where you were going, now there was no relativity, right? So think about this. Why do you think in a blind person's home, everything stays exactly the same? They know the number of steps. They know exactly where they have cognitively mapped. It's not going to be the same visual that we have, but they've cognitively mapped where all of these pieces are. What happens happens to them when they come in your classroom? And then in that classroom, and then in that classroom, and then in that classroom? Yes, ma'am.
But I think more importantly, when they go into that classroom, they don't have a partner like we all had to tell us where to go. I mean, in fact, I was sandwiched. I had two partners, one on the front and one on the back. I think they felt like I needed that.
Exactly.
You don't see visually impaired people walking around with others. They're on their own. And
They're independent.
yeah. So
So what we have to think about is how courageous is that? If that doesn't take one heck of a lot of courage, I don't know what does. To me, they're my heroes. We look for heroes every day. Those are folks that live in a visual-built world and navigate in darkness. That's a lot. And now they're navigating as students and trying to learn and understand and take on a whole lot of other stuff. How can we help them? Right? Those kinds of things I want to sort of have us all. We are all responsible on one level for that support. Okay. We now have a yellow screen. What I'd like you to do at your tabletops, you can just pass these around, but I'd like you to put this just over your eyes and just kind of look around for a minute and just reflect on that, and then we'll do a share. So there's a couple of different ones. If we need more, I've got more. I might need some more at this table. I've got lots here, so we can. Any tabletop need some more? So remember I said earlier that we've got 5 different generations of people working in the same environment. What happens when we age? Cataracts. A lot of folks need glasses. There's a prosthetics. Glasses are a prosthetics, right? Our eyes begin to yellow. We don't see color the same way. So think about your slides and presentations, and if you have folks that are in the upper vintage, what should that look like? When one of my degrees is in gerontology, and so I wanted to make sure I understood how do I design for people that are so vulnerable in our society. And one of them is to make sure that the floor and the wall are completely different in terms of contrast. That's so you don't walk into it, because you don't know where that cliff is. There was actually a study done. Somebody pulled up a whole bunch of carpet that was in this long corridor in an assisted facilities area, because the sun in the afternoon would come through the door, and the way the carpet pattern was designed for the aged with the yellowing syndrome, it looked like there was ripples in the carpet, and they were doing this and coming down really hard and falling sometimes, because the depth perception of what was going on was just, it got lost. It got lost due to color. Okay? So I just want you to, we kind of did this, so. What do you think this means to you at your particular institution? Why did I give you the yellow band? How does this impact or affect you?
Next, in terms of any visuals that you're going to use in the classroom, PowerPoint slides,
Mhm.
etc., they need to have that major contrast.
Right, major contrast. So we talked on the earlier one about size and font size and that kind of thing. And I could tell you, I remember, I've been around with death by PowerPoint for a long time, but we were putting spreadsheets up there, trying to get everybody read it, and they were back there, right? So put yourself in someone else's situation. When you're presenting information, who are you presenting it to? If you have a guest speaker that comes, you may not know what their situation is, particularly if there's someone that is a traditionalist, someone's in a higher vintage. Just recognize that these are possibilities that you may have to address, not every day necessarily, but things that happen on a regular basis. Everyone close your fist for a minute. Okay, now see if you could pretend that you're texting on your phone. How do you do that? Or typing on a keyboard. How do you do that? How do you open a door that has a knob? One of the things that ADA compliance means that in all public spaces, we have to have a lever. We don't often have that in our homes. We have lots of knobs. So people that might have had an injury, that might have arthritis, might have other kinds of problems with their hands, when we begin to think about all the technology that's being developed, there's not a lot that supports this. The iPads and the Kindles, those kinds of things, because the numbers are bigger, you can actually do this with your knuckle. A whole lot easier than you can try to do it on a keyboard because the keys are small, or certainly when you get down to your, the thumbs have to grow anyway to text on any of our smartphones. But these are some of the things that you have to think about. You're talking a lot today about ADA, Americans with Disability Act, but that is a US-based guideline. Nobody else in the world has that. Predominant function when we're working internationally is universal design. And it's a little bit different perspective. So I just want to share that with you just so if you are having, if you're working abroad, if you're, working with students that are abroad, a little bit different nuances that come to mind, or people are coming here. So when we think about Americans with Disability Act, it just states that all the public facilities in the United States have to follow these guidelines. But in essence, just my perspective from my research, is that it's a quota system. How many, if you have tablet armchairs, how many left-handed chairs do you have to have in a classroom? 10%, exactly. And are they where the left-handers need them? Yeah. What if they come into the class early, if they come into the class prepared to do that? But it's a quota system. How many parking places do we have to enter a building? It's not every parking place. It's only a certain number of parking places. So it's a percentage to every built facility. It's important to have them, don't misunderstand me. But at the same time, it's not holistic. It's not thinking about it for every single situation. When you look at universal design, it's the design of products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible, basically at all times. So what's a scenario that we could think about here? You're in your home. You have friends, and they happen to be in a wheelchair. They're coming to visit you. How do they get in your house? And when they can't, what does that make them feel like? Or because you know that they're in a wheelchair, where do you suggest that you meet? Because you know you can't invite them to your home. When they come to particularly older buildings in any country, in the US, how do you accommodate? We might get through the main doors, but can we get through anything else? Corridors were pretty small. They weren't designed for larger components. Look at how much space when the two people were walking that you took up just to guide someone else, right? If you are in a wheelchair, this is a pretty wide little fella. And if I'm guiding you, look at how much space we take up. Now, if I decided, okay, folks, I'm going to come and visit you at y'all's table, what are you going to have to do for me? Move chairs, okay? And hopefully, I can come up underneath here. Oh, pretty close. But it's not designed for every single situation. You know, sometimes we have to be able to raise and lower things. In the work I did in the Nordic countries, one of the things that I thought was very fascinating, this is almost 20 years ago now, was the fact that in residential areas, they've actually designed a segment of the cabinetry where the sink is that goes up and down by the push of a button. The upper cabinets come down. So what does that do? It allows a family to coexist without creating a whole lot of different kinds of things going on. Some of that plumbing requirements with you know, a flexible hose and that haven't made it yet to the US. It's coming a little bit now. But I've seen some programs that are sort of showing that the cabinetry is moving down. But a lot of other countries are way ahead of us in terms of supporting basically birth to death, so that you can feel comfortable and be connected with the people that you want to be connected with and feel a part of that and not feel discriminated against. Both don't focus on the 95th percentile, which is what all products are pretty much designed for. And there's really no such thing as 95 percentile. But for example, we know through ergonomics, there's a certain pop tail length here, there's a certain length that's here. You know, we design these seating arrangements for those things. We often understand in this country also that because we are growing larger as people, not only taller but wider, that it becomes a real issue as it relates to classroom design and the kinds of spaces that students sit in without having them feel uncomfortable because of the type of seating that's there. So what are some of these applications? ADA has done a tremendous job of helping us understand the importance of designing the environment so it's not the barrier. When we think about it, you know, 1990, that's not that long ago that that law was put into place. And before that, it was really up to y'all to do that, whether that was a good thing or not a good thing. Now it is mandatory. You know, you have to be able to do these things. And it's regulated. As designers, we get all of these different, very highly detailed drawings in order to be able to make sure that we're in compliance with what we're supposed to design for. And these are international symbols. So whenever you travel abroad, you're going to know, as someone who needs these kinds of supports, what's there for you and how and where to go look for it. So that's an important piece. And these come for everything. I mean, the ramps, the doorways, you know, where things are placed on the door. All of that information is detailed, highly detailed in the ADA guidelines. But we think about universal design. I just want to create an awareness of what this means. It talks a lot, there's a lot of similarities, but there are some differences. So we look at equitable use, we look at flexibility in use, that it's simple and intuitive, so almost like a Mac-like approach. You know, we want to know how, I want to just get in my car and turn the key and make it work. I don't want to necessarily understand what goes under the hood. I probably should, but I don't want to. Perceptible information, tolerance for error, low physical effort, and size and space for appropriate use. So let's talk about Bloom's taxonomy a little bit. For those that are in the educational side of the world, Bloom's got a new lift. It has a new version. But we're teaching someone, and it might even be your superior. It might be, you know, someone else that's in the staff colleague that you have to share information with. How do we take the information about physical and learning challenges into the classroom? How do you design a syllabus to support all learners? You know, we stamp it out pretty regularly. And we've got a formula that pretty much works. But now if we put that thinking on and just viscerally remember that you had a blindfold on. Now what? How do I develop a project for my students so that anyone can learn from this? How do I do that? At what level of blooms are we trying to reach? And therefore, what do I need to incorporate or include? So that's basically remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So his theory is the higher up you go, the more cognitive the more you own your own knowledge, basically. Okay. So how do we do that? Here's some tips and tricks to try to be able to connect that. So how about if we just read this together? We have to identify the application, right? So what are we trying to achieve? We have to define the universe. Who are the students, or who are the people that are going to be in my particular setting that I have to worry about? Every course is going to be a little bit different. Anybody teach the same course all the time? Forevermore? Well, there might be some that get taught a lot, but there's often an evolution of what we do. Involve the consumer. If you're not an expert in how to design or how to even think about what these challenges are, who do you know that can help you? Who's the expert? Who's the person that's living it that can help you understand that? Certainly DSS does a great job on campus, but you might have some colleagues, some friends. You have, an uncle that can support that, maybe give you a different perspective. Adopt those guidelines and standards, and then plan for the different accommodations. And some of you have gone to different sessions. We'll tell you how to do that as it relates to an online component, or even much more than I can as it relates to the more virtual components of what needs to happen there. Train and support and evaluate. So when we think about words, and we like words as educators, Americans with Disabilities Act is an important perspective to understand. It's a guideline that has to be met in the U.S. But universal design is, in my view anyway, more universal, more accepting, more, if you think about it all the way through, it's not about how many of these do we have, but do we have enough for all? It's a little bit different perspective than just thinking about it in sort of, well, I've got to have so many of this. I've got to have a number. So it's creating an environment for all learners. So let me ask you this. You came into this session today. We've had a couple of little experiences that we've done. What have you learned today in this session? You don't have to be shy, right?
Well, I think one of the things that is important is that when we conceptualize ADA and we have this idea of what it is, we also need to expand, and I learned today how to expand an idea of universal design so that it's not just things that are accommodating, but ways of being in the world and not in the whole world and not just the U.S.
Okay, so you're... So you're expanding your own universe by understanding that it's can I paraphrase you there? Sure. You're trying to expand your own universe by understanding it's not just about ADA, but it's about all people's living in this world, and how do we support that, not just on this campus, but on wherever else you might be. Was I okay? Uh-huh. Okay, all right, good. Someone else, yes ma'am.
I'd say that quotas are probably based on a false assumption that it's probably not the best way to try to approach the solution for universal accommodation or universal access.
Well, so the comment is that the quotas are probably based on an incorrect assumption. If you think about any kind of quota, whatever it is, our world is changing so fast, And when we looked at that number, over 6 million, almost 6.5 million children in 10 years have told someone. It's not the folks that don't tell people, right? Over 6.5 million people have said, I need help. And I'm coming to you, disability folks, and acknowledging that. How many don't? So that number is just changing so much. How can we even, how can we sustain any kind of quota? We can't. It's a great place as a starting point. It's huge. It's incredibly important. But it needs to be more. It needs to be broader thinking. Anyone else like to share? Yes, ma'am.
I think I understand better why it seems that when I have hear students complain about the college website, it's almost always the older student, the
More mature student.
who complains about the fact that there's not a lot of contrast on the colors chosen for the college website. It's almost always somebody over the age of 35 or 40.
Okay, so students in a particular cohort are complaining about the website because of contrast. So you can start to hear some of these patterns that might be coming through, right? Anyone else like to share? Yes, sir.
Just that needs change.
Okay. Needs change. Yeah. And what are we going to do to help facilitate that? Are we going to go and say, it's my class, it's my way, I'm going to present this way, and y'all are going to have to just deal with it? Or are we going to say, we don't learn the way we used to learn? I'm not sure we ever really did. But we do know, brain science would tell us that this little gizmo that we play with a lot has literally changed children's brains. So if you think that folks are coming to you that aren't going to be different, that's a misnomer, that's a myth, because they will be. Their brains have physically changed. So how are we going to accommodate? If we continue with stand and deliver, sit and get, it's probably not going to work, right? You had something, man, you wanted to share.
Too, I mean, you didn't even hit on, many of the disabilities, but like when you had us on the yellow, it made me think of my son who has, he has a neurological disorder, but he has nystagmus, and he's 8. So nystagmus, for many of you probably know it, like if you get pulled over by a police officer, then that's what they look for, if your eyes shift back and forth, but he has it all the time.
Yeah.
And if he gets too visually, like there's too much stuff going on, his eyes go back and forth a lot, and he can't concentrate.
Right, right. I have a
And so
son-in-law
a
who's,
screen that's very complicated and has a lot of graphics and stuff like that, or if things are flashing at him all the time, it makes the nystagmus worse.
right, right. So, and it's not a visible thing necessarily,
And
you know?
So, I mean, then he has to work even harder to try to focus, and then
Yeah.
it goes.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we also see, particularly, again, we're doing away with recess, we're doing away with all kinds of opportunities for our children to move. In this little session, I had you move. You've not only just had lunch, but these aren't exactly the most ergonomic seats to sit in. But it's also about, if we don't move, we don't learn. It takes all of our senses for knowledge to come in the door. Then we have to do this sort of repetitive little motion in our head, and then we have to cognitively map that in order to be able to find a place to draw it back out and get it when we need it. By asking you to actually physically engage your senses in this, my hope is, as you go away, that memory, that emotional cognitive map that you created here will come back to you when you think about this. So that knowledge, even though it's tiny and brief and you didn't have to spend the whole day, is visceral. You told me all of your senses had to heighten, right? Not only for the person who is blindfolded, but for the person who is leading that person, right? So it was both sides of that. If you cared that you didn't trip that person and, lop them off or whatever, then you took that responsibility on, right? That was important to you. That's important for all of us. Because we've got at least 6.5 million kids that have said, I got something wrong and I need your help. Don't ignore me. Don't stand and deliver the same way we always have. We don't learn that way. We need the environment to get out of the way. We need it to not be the barrier, right? That's what research is teaching us, helping us to learn. And we're trying to help others sort of take that knowledge and just do what you can do. Because we can all make a difference to every single one of our students' experiences. And part of that's physicality as well, right? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Thank you. So I think I'm right on time.